Hello everyone, it's Mason Winfield again with one more installment of Sci Friday with Mason. This happens to be December 19th, 2025, and we're coming up on Christmas, which, as you all would know, very powerful time of the year. Not just because it's sacred to the Christians, but it's a winter solstice event. And the real solstice, the actual night of the solstice, would be this coming Sunday, December 21st. Now, what the winter solstice means is that it's just the shortest amount of daylight. And the cycle of the year, if you think of it as a circle, it's got four really major solar points of sacred power to just about all the world's societies. Summer solstice, winter solstice, equinoxes. So you've got this on the, this X on the circle. But then you've got other power points, four of them, that are the cross-quarter points right in between. So there's really 8 powerful points of the year. But I think the most powerful are the solstices. And here we come upon one. And Christmas is this solstitial event. So I'm going to tell you, first of all, we did a sort of a storytelling event a little bit earlier this week. We called it My Real Ghost. And we were hoping to focus on the Christmas season. For the most part, we did. But that was a night when a lot of the people who showed up were a little shy. And I had to take up a lot more of the slack than I usually do. Fortunately, I was prepared. And I have to give you the reflection that I encounter more personal ghost stories out of people in the week of Christmas than I do at Halloween. And when I look back on psychic events, potentially psychic events that I have observed in my personal experience, my life, I got about 5 of them from the Christmas season, even Christmas Eve. It's remarkable. So the tale I will tell you tonight is something I call 2 Fawns and a Doe. And it's a story that happened to me, and I will never forget it. It was Christmas Eve 2002. It was the last Christmas that my mother would be alive. And I live in East Aurora, New York. Her house was in Orchard Park. I didn't live in that house very long. I was there for 3 years in high school, but my mother was declining. And we kept her in the house. I stocked it with aids and did what I could to help. And Christmas Eve, I was over there. I hung out, we made dinner. And if you're familiar with the decline of an older person, it's like this year they can't pay their checks. This year they don't walk very well. This year they quit talking. It's like, my mother had a long decline. So as much as I can look back on her life and say, thank you, God, yet as you watch it, it's real tough. And so I'm spending this Christmas Eve at her beautiful home in Orchard Park. And me and the aide and she have a bite of dinner, and she's in bed by 8 and I stuck around longer. But you have some meditations. It was a rough one. So anyway, that night I get home, East Aurora, New York, and right across the street is this beautiful 633-acre park, the Knox State Park, with snow on it. And I had already worked out like crazy earlier in the day, but I was restless. Christmas Eve. And it was just a few days after the full moon. And the sky was bright, and there was beautiful snow at the park. And I decided to take my skis and poles and walk across the street and go for a moonlight tour. And, I was working on some karma. When you're getting ready to lose a parent, Probably everybody, has the feeling. But I was skiing around. And I'll tell you, this park, it's got an ample bank of woods in the middle of it, but the perimeter is relatively wide open. And I tend to, my course, I would ski the perimeter, and then I would ski right around the trees, and then do the loop, and then the trees. And the way this is set up, you've got these the way I go is clockwise. And you got these right angle banks of trees. You go around this corner, you can see the whole south and nothing else but trees. And then you go around a right angle turn, and now you can see everything again. Crazy. And you got about 3 of those. And another thing you need to remember, and keep this in your mind through this whole story, Christmas Eve is such a sacred night in Europe that it's thought to be the night that domestic animals are given the power of speech. That's the one night of the year when you might walk into the barn and hear the goats talking to the sheep, maybe saying prayers, maybe worshiping the child of the Lord. The other thing to remember is that the First Nations people of my region, Seneca, Tuscarora, they believe that occasionally animals can talk. And what's it mean when you hear a couple of animals talking? It's an open debate. They might be witches that have taken the form of animals. They might be enchanted. Maybe they're shamans, great healers, who've decided to take the form of animals. And very often they won't speak. And they will never speak in English. They'll always be talking in one of the old national languages, Seneca, Tuscarora, Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga. They'll talk in one of the six old original languages. And as I'm skiing, I hear people in the park. Who's out in a park at 12:30 on Christmas Eve on a 20-degree night? Who's out there? And how are they staying ahead of me? Because I keep going around and I keep hearing them. And I used to race, I know when I'm keeping up a clip. And I almost never encounter people who ski faster. And yet these people are ahead of me. They're going the same route. They're always ahead. And they sound like they might be women and children too, because the voices are light and they're high and they're happy. And I keep going around and I keep hearing them. It's such a mystery. On my last loop, I come around the bend, and right as I'm coming around the bend, I hear the voices with more vigor. And I could never tell what language they were speaking either. I did not hear one word I could understand. I was thinking to myself, what is the Austrian X Games, Junior Olympics going around out here? I couldn't figure it out. I go right around the last bend, and there's 3 deer stopped looking right at me. It's a doe, full grown, in the middle, and 2 fawns on each side. And they're not really acting like most of the other deer I've seen in my life. They didn't seem scared of me. They actually looked at me. And the moon was going down in the southeast at that point, and I could see it glistening in their eyes. And then they just sort of moseyed off a little bit. I was careful not to startle them, but they moseyed off and kind of looked at me once or twice, and the whole experience was unusual. And because of the customs of Christmas Eve and some of the mojo that was going on in my heart at the time, and the unusual behavior of the deer and all I knew about supernatural custom, I came away with the impression that I might have been given my own Christmas miracle. Thanks for joining us on Sci Friday with Mason. This was a little bit more of a personal one than most of them are. Merry Christmas.